Hello and welcome to the Red City. We are in Marrakesh, Morocco for the opening race weekend of the 2019 FIA WTCR World Touring Car Cup at the circuit Moulay Al Hassan for the 10th time, celebrating our 10th anniversary of racing here on the streets of Morocco's second city and the royal capital. The Royal Palace lies just alongside the track. Hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me is Richard Coleman. Down on the grid, Alex Le Gouy. She'll be catching up with our drivers before the start of the race and also after this first race of the season. And Richard, all sorts of questions still remain to be answered, and some of them won't even be answered for another 7 or 8 months until we get right into the final knockings of this 24-race title battle.
Yeah, absolutely. Tricky weekend for the drivers so far. Difficult conditions in practice. Obviously, it's a very low grip circuit here, not being a permanent circuit. And yeah, a bit of a chop change qualifying session, which saw Ivan Muller put it on the front row in second place. But sadly, he's picked up an engine penalty after an unforced error, rattling the sump guard over the curb. So he'll be starting today's race last. That benefits his teammate, Ted Bjork. On the front road start alongside poleman Esteban Guerrieri. In fact,
it benefits every single man in the field apart from Esteban Guerrieri, because when the guy from second is out, everybody else moves up. So Attila Tassi there, Tassi on the final row of the grid, he was due to start 26th. Even he moves up one spot to 25th. And his plan is going to be to tuck in behind Ivan Muller and try and follow the Frenchman through the gaps that he creates in the field. For men like his teammates, it is all a bonus, and for everybody else, they move up the grid. Now, all the drivers taking part in a photo shoot right at the front of the grid with the trophy here to commemorate the 10th anniversary of racing on this street circuit in Morocco. And we'll also see kids there who've been brought by a local charity, the Al Karam Association. They bring underprivileged kids to events like this to give them an idea of what might be possible in the future for them. Well, for Ivan Muller, the future is probably looking a little brighter than the present, because starting last, even with points going down to 15th position, it's not going to be a big points haul from today. As you say, Richard, he clattered over the big sausage curb in the turn 4 chicane and punched a hole in the sump. And the team, to get him ready for the race, then had to take the car out of Parc Fermé, so it's an automatic grid drop to the back of the grid. And it did require an engine change as well. So
the other interesting thing I noticed then, Martin, was on the grid, the team have got the tracking bars on the car, normally to look at the toe of the wheels, the sort of the angle in or out that the wheels are pointing, and that would be quite unusual to be doing that on the grid.
Well, the engine was coming out when I looked at the car right after qualifying, but there was also a spare gearbox on the ground in the garage as well, so it may be that engine had to come out to change the transmission. It might be engine and transmission were both changed. And once the transmission comes out, the drive shafts come out, then you just want to make sure that everything is absolutely perfect. There wasn't a lot of time to be messing around with, not a half day to change it in. So the team were a little bit up against it. And actually, they might already be putting themselves into contention for one of the awards for the mechanics at the end of the season that Ascaro, the season sponsor, will be providing. Well, there's the trophy that they'll all be battling for, and there's a whole host of different prizes on offer at this and every other weekend, not just for winning the races, but also for the overall most valuable driver of the weekend. Gabriele Tarquini took that here last year with 1 pole and 2 race wins out of 2 qualifying periods and 3 races. And of course, that laid the foundation for him then going on to win last year's title. Bless you, Ivan. A little bit, lot of pollen in the air, and very different pollen clearly from what we're used to at home in the UK, because noses and eyes have been streaming all weekend. It is a little warmer, and although there's quite a lot of cloud overhead, not much of it is grey, so hopefully the race will stay dry. So joining our drivers are all the youngsters who've been brought here by the Al Karam Association. And they, among many, many other Moroccan fans here, will be hoping that their local hero, Mehdi Banani, can produce the sort of results that he did last year when he finished on the podium in one of the races here. Race 2, first race on Sunday. So the cars are on the grid, the drivers are nearby as well. So let's take a look at how they'll line up then for the first of 24 races this season. Esteban Guerrieri, the first DHL pole sitter of the season, and some old guys behind him. Ted Björk, his own teammate Nesta Girolami, three-time world champion Andy Prio, reigning champion Gabriele Tarquini, race 2 winner here last year Jean-Carl Vernet, the returning Thiago Montero and Jan Erlacher on row 4. New boy Daniel Hagloff on row 5, then Norbert Mikulitz and Mickey Katzberg in their Hyundais. New boy Mikel Ascona, Hagloff's teammate, ahead of Aurelian Panis. Rob Huff, the best of Volkswagens, who've had a torrid time in qualifying. New boys in the Volkswagen camp, struggling just like the old hands. As we go further down the grid, we get down to Attila Tashi and Ivan Muller, who will start on the final row of our grid. Well, let's hear from Ivan.
Oh, Ivan Muller, you had a very good qualifying session initially, but unfortunately, due to no fault of your own, you are now starting at the back of the grid, P26. Frustrating start for you.
Yeah, very frustrating because the speed was there. I did only one run. I was P1 at that time, and that lap stayed on the first row all the session during 40 minutes. So I could maybe improve that time, maybe do better than the P2, but unfortunately that's racing. I did a small mistake in the chicane. I had the oil leak. We had to change the engine. Now I start on the last.
Positively, though, I mean, it's very good news. The car is obviously very sharp and will also potentially do very well around here.
Yeah, absolutely. Car goes well. To be honest, we are a bit surprised of the pace of some cars. We are surprised of the pace of our car as well. Let's see now on the race.
What can you do from the back?
Sorry?
What can you do from the back?
Not much. You know, I will not take any risk. I will maybe start from the pit lane.
Well, that's going to be hard because the car's on the grid.
You can peel off, of course, but
yeah.
I mean, ultimately, you know, if Ivan's demise, whilst it's unfortunate and unlucky, maybe it is his fault. You know, he did clatter the curb and make the mistake of the chicane, and that's what ultimately broke the sump and forced the team to change the engine.
Meanwhile, Esteban Guerrieri from Argentina, who won the last race of last season, starts on the DHL pole for the first race of the new year. Safety car driver is getting his helmet on, along with all of our other drivers. There's Aurelian Panis, one of 2 bright yellow Hondas in the field. And he has palled up this year with Tom Coronel in 2 near identical looking cars. Lots of identical looking cars in our field. Teams of 2 and an awful lot of them looking absolutely indecipherable and indistinguishable from each other. The good news for us is that the man on pole position's in a yellow car and the man alongside him's in a blue car. So that's going to make differentiating between the 2 of them in the run down to the first corner fairly straightforward. Behind is another yellow car and another blue car. So I'm afraid that puts a bit of a fly in the ointment. So there'll be yellow cars and blue cars everywhere. Ivan Muller, as you say, he'll go off on the formation lap from the grid. And we'll have to see what happens after that, whether he peels into the pit lane and then waits. I mean, he'll be the last car on the grid, so it's not like he's going to have to wait for anybody else to go by. He may as well just follow them round and mind his P's and Q's a bit. I suppose he's hoping to miss the comboulage at the first corner. Gabriele Tarquini lines up in 5th place on the grid, the reigning champion. And he took 2 wins here. He won race 1 and from pole position won race 3 as well. He wasn't on pole for race 1 last year. He was 2nd on the grid behind Ted Björk, who made a bit of a flummox of the start. And Gabriele, always one of the quickest starters of front-wheel drive touring cars in this field, made a better getaway, took the lead, and that, as she says, was that. But the Hyundais not as quick this year in qualifying as they were last year, so they're losing a little bit of pace perhaps. Andy Priaulx returns to touring car racing, and the first front-wheel drive touring car start, or the first front-wheel drive racing car start for him since 2002, when he raced a Honda in the British Touring Car Championship. And not many people will remember that he was even in the British Touring Car Championship that long ago. Cars on the grid, all 26 of them ready to go for the first of 24 races in the FIA WTCR series. And the World Cup featuring Néstor Girolami from Argentina on row 2 of the grid. He lines up third on the inside of row 2. On his outside, on his right-hand side, Andy Priaulx in the Lynx & Co. 03. And in front of him, a similar blue Lynx & Co. car and his own teammate. So, Richard, if you're Néstor Girolami, you want to be glued to your teammate's bumper into the first corner, so hopefully you'll come out 1-2.
Yeah, Nestor's always been a very, very quick driver, but he hasn't always had his head together, so it'll be interesting to see how he deals with the pressure of the first corner here. He's got, you know, a world champion in front of him and a world champion, 2 world champions behind him in Andy Priaulx and Gabriele Tarquini. So it's not an easy ask, and of course, you know, he won't want to commit the cardinal sin of running into his teammate either. So plenty for Néstor Girolami to be thinking about going into turn 1.
I talked to Néstor at lunchtime. He thought there was a little bit more in the car than he managed to find. That's very much the case for Ted Bjerke as well. He said there was definitely more pace than he managed to get out of it. It's a sub-3 kilometre circuit. It's barely over 2 miles around. It's stop-start. It's nose to tail. You can't see where you're going around most of the corners because of the high walls of the street circuit. And it's very hard to spot problems ahead of you or avoid problems ahead of you when you're on a quick lap. Esteban Guerrieri, again, I think like everybody else, thinks there's more speed in the car. He said, I did get a clear lap, but I didn't make the best of it. Andy Priaulx said exactly the same. He lines up 4th. He said, yep, made a mistake in the penultimate corner on my quick lap, so there's definitely more speed to come from me. And I think that's the same with everybody. A lot of it is whether you get a break in traffic or not. Some of that is good management by the engineer, by the driver. Much of it on a circuit this short and this tight is just pure dumb good luck or otherwise. So you can put all the speed in, whether you get the results out or not, sometimes is a little bit out of your own control. But now it comes a lot more down to the driver's control and a little bit less down to the ultimate speed of the car, because what you've got in qualifying and what you need in the race, not necessarily the same thing. Esteban Guerrieri starts on the DHL pole from Ted Bjerke. On row 2, Néstor Girolami, another Argentine in a Honda, and Andy Priaulx, the returning triple world champion. Gabriele Tarquini, the TCR champion from last year, is in 3rd row of the grid with Jean-Carl Vernet. They were the race winners here a year ago. Behind Thiago Monteiro, full-term return for him. Yann Elaché looking strong. First of the rookies, Daniel Hegloff, ahead of Kevin Chacon in the first of the Alphas on row 5. Then Norbert Mikelitz and Nicky Katzberg's Hyundais on row 6. Mikel Azcona, a rookie in his Cupra, lines up on row 7 with Aurelien Panis, new to Cupras, alongside him. Then the best of Volkswagens, Rob Huff, in what was a trouble qualifying for VW Motorsport and SLR. He's ahead of Augusto Farfus, another returning driver. Another rookie, Niels Langefeld, the Dutchman, in his Audi, lines up on the inside of row 9 with Tom Coronel alongside him. Then Johan Christofferson, another rookie, ahead of Mehdi Bernardi, who was on the podium here last year. Returning Marcin Kwa in his Alpha is ahead of Gordon Shedden, who struggled in qualifying to get a clear lap. Frederick Vervisch and new boy Benny Leuchtner are on the penultimate row of the grid, ahead of Attila Tassi and Ivan Muller, with that engine change penalty down in 26th position. And that is your grid for race 1 of the 2019 FIA WTCR. So getting ready to go. Everybody making their final moments of preparation. And that is the trophy that they will all be battling for. Cars heading off on the final formation lap here in Marrakesh. The season is just moments away. Richard, final checks from the engineers, final words on the radio from the drivers, but now they've got to focus on trying to get a little bit of heat into the tyres. No tyre warmers means they're at ambient air temperature, which is 14, 15 degrees, maybe 18 if they've been sat in the sunshine. That's not an operating temperature in anybody's book.
No, and it's a very, very short way around to the grid, less than 3 kilometres, and there aren't many constant radius corners like the one we see on our screens now. So it's very difficult to get that energy into the tyre on this opening lap, particularly as obviously touring cars have only got drive from one axle as well. So it's very hard to get tyres into the rear, into the undriven wheel. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see who's going to do a better job of that, because it makes such a big difference on the first lap.
Well, despite the fact he starts last, Ivan Muller did actually set the second quickest time, so the championship points have already been started. Esteban Guerrier is our points leader. Andy Priaulx in the points as well, moves up to 4th place, row 2 of the grid for his return to touring car racing. He was a 3-time world touring car champion. So for Guerrieri, Ted Bjerke alongside, the last World Touring Car champion. Nesta Girolami behind him, his teammate. Andy Priaulx, a triple world champion. Gabriele Tarquini, last year's champion. Jean-Carl Vernet, another TCR champion. I mean, this grid is absolutely rammed from front to back, literally with Ivan Muller starting last, with enormous amounts of talent. It's going to be an incredibly difficult task to win more than a race or two all season long. Whoever comes out here champion this year will know that they have beaten perhaps the greatest touring car field ever assembled.
I thought last year was probably the best class of drivers we've had for 10 years or more, but definitely, we've already surpassed that this year. I mean, if that was even possible. Yeah. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this race pans out. We've had a bit of a scrappy series of sessions this morning, so I think a lot of the drivers aren't really as dialed into this circuit as you'd like, and we've seen a number of them go down the escape road. So it'll be great to see how this race is going to pan out. It's exciting stuff.
The phony war is just about to be over, and the real battle for the 2019 FIA WTCR World Touring Car Cup title is about to get underway. Race 1 of 24. We're on the streets of Marrakesh in Morocco, the first race of 3 this weekend. And it's Honda and the new manufacturer, Lincoln Co., who have Honda's 1st and 3rd on the grid, Lincoln Co. 2nd and 4th. And Ivan Muller looks to be peeling into the pit lane. He is. He's going to start from the pit lane after an engine change, following going 2nd fastest in qualifying. That means Attila Tashi will be the final car that's starting from the grid in 25th place. Race 1 of the FIA World Touring Car Cup is just about to get underway. 5 red lights come on the right-hand side of your picture. The poleman, Esteban Guerrieri. Away we go. The season is underway. Guerrieri with Ted Bjerke, the 2017 World Touring Car champion alongside. Bjerke trying to go the long way around the outside. Nesta Girolami and Andy Priaulx already rubbing door mirrors. Behind is Gabriele Tarquini's Hyundai. They're 2x2x2. And Guerrieri has the advantage over Ted Bjerke, but Andy Priaulx going the short way round. Girolami tries to squeeze him into turn 3. Girolami dives out wide, getting in too deep under braking. The car was squirreling and Priaulx's up to 3rd. Rubbing's racing and Priaulx makes his move. So too does Jean-Carl Vernet. He's up to 4th place from 6th on the grid. He's got ahead of Nesta Girolami and Gabriele Tarquini, and there's trouble behind. Attila Tashi takes to the escape road, and a few cars went over the chicane, but it was a good start from Priaulx. Moved up a spot. Now he's going to be trying to help his teammate Ted Bjerke as they hunt the race leader Esteban Guerrieri.
Guerrieri made a disappointing start, but he did a great turn 1 and really kept his cool to keep Ted out. He knew if he held the inside line, then Bjerke had no chance, but yeah, he did well to keep his cool on that one as they all sort of bump and shuffle around. I did see that one of the Volkswagens got into a bit of trouble. I think it was Christopherson.
Coronel's in the barriers. He's got shunted off. And Esteban Guerrieri, the leader then from Ted Bjerke in their round already at the end of lap 1 of 18. We could add up to 2 further laps if there are safety car situations. 18 laps in race 1, 18 laps in race 2, 21 lap distance for race 3 tomorrow. Johan Christopherson has damage, we're hearing from the camera's trackside, so you're absolutely right there. Identifying one of 4 near identical Golfs. The only difference between them is the flags on the roof. So you saw Rob Huff there, who is currently lying in 15th place. not made much progress. And Mehdi Banani is in, the local boy, with a right rear puncture.
And I think Christopherson ended up straddling this curb that the leaders are just shuffling through now, which is where, of course, Ivan Muller got that damage in qualifying. So wouldn't surprise me if Christopherson has got a similar issue.
Johan Christopherson, double World Rallycross champion. He'd done plenty of circuit racing as well, so this is not unaccustomed territory to him. And you'll see him with the Swedish flag on his Golf. There's Nicky Katzberg chasing his teammate, Augusto Farfus. In fact, he's chasing Norbert Mikulitz. So Augusto Farfus, who's his literal teammate in the 4-car lineup. It's in pairs with nominally different names run by BRC, the 4 Hyundais. In the same way that all 4 Lynk & Co cars are run by Cyan Racing, but with slight variations in the actual team name. Tom Coronel in the pits, and that's not a great start to his season. Change of car from the Honda that he's driven for the last few years to Cupra. And damage there from impact with the tyres.
Yeah, it's not going to polish out, I'm afraid. That's a reasonable connection with the barrier there for Tom.
Ivan Muller is still last, but purple first sector and green second sector. Thiago Monteiro in 7th has just set the fastest race lap as he tries to close the gap to the car in front, which is Gabriele Tarquini's Hyundai. And behind him, going with him, is Daniel Haglerf, the young Swede, who makes his debut with the team that he started himself, PWR Racing. 2-car outfit that's graduated from Scandinavian touring cars. That's Haglerf in that flat grey car with the white stripes. Gap back then to Jan Erlaché, 9th place. Erlaché, the blue and yellow Cyan Racing car, and he seems to be holding everybody else up.
Verne looks very racy behind Andy Prio, getting right under his bumper as we ride on board with him right now. But yeah, he looks very, very racy at this stage of the race.
Christopherson joins Banani in the pit lane, so 2 of our 4 Volkswagens are out. Volkswagen had a torrid time in qualifying. None of them could find any pace. And Werner, you're right. I mean, he had a good weekend here last year. He won the second of the 2 races. And this year, race 2, race 3 and race 1 all give you the same amount of points. So a race 2 win gives you even more than it did last season.
The Audi's been pretty handy through the speed traps this weekend as well. So hopefully that means that Verne's got half a chance of being able to make some progress and overtake.
Now Andy Prio in 3rd place with the yellow stripe down his blue car. Jean-Carl Verne right behind him in 4th position, but Gordon, beg your pardon, that's Johan Christopherson. Gordon Shedden a little further down the order in his car. He's down in 18th, Jean-Carl Verne in 4th. So there's a big spread of performance between the 2, although the top 21 cars in qualifying were within a second of each other. So this is a hugely tight field. If you blink, you miss a couple of spots every lap in qualifying.
Absolutely. I think the other thing we've got to look out for in this race is punctures. We've seen a number of punctures throughout free practice and qualifying. And, you know, whilst I don't expect the same number in the race, I wouldn't surprise me if 1 or 2 cars have got a little bit carried away with their starting pressures or cambers, and that results in a puncture. So let's keep our eye out for that too.
Well, Banani is definitely out. Coronel looks like he's out. Christopherson looks like he's out as well. So we're 3 down already. This is the view on board from Thiago Monteiro of the queue in front. Monteiro's in 7th. You see Tarquini moving around in the slipstream of Nesta Girolami, trying to keep the car as cool as he can. Let's take a look again at the start. Not a great getaway from pole. The black and white car of Esteban Guerrieri. Ted Björk almost fully in front, but Richard couldn't quite keep his nose in front in that long 180-degree left-hander. So Girolami came back. But here, Girolami gets on the inside of Prio. Prio comes the long way around the outside down to turn 3. And then Girolami gets a little bit bumped out of bed. And this is Tarquini with Monteiro, I'm guessing. And here's Andy Prio. Girolami outbraked himself there, didn't he?
Yeah, a little bit of a hasty move in reality.
So there's Girolami looking from Tarquini's viewpoint. In corner 1, right-hander in corner 2 gives Prio a little bit of an overlap on him, and Prio's trying to squeeze the Argentine. And Girolami got a little bit wrong. That's a big thump over the curbs.
That's Christopherson.
Yeah. And you see that he immediately loses momentum. Don't get much traction when the car's up in the air. So 5 busy laps already. Nesta Girolami pulling out of the slipstream.
Venet's ahead of
Jean-Carl Vernet, yes, and so is Girolami. Prio's lost 2 spots.
That's the problem. You get shuffled out of the pack and you're out of sync, and that's it.
In fact, he's lost 3 because Tarquini came by as well. So Vernet has a lunge down inside Prio, makes contact. Prio gets knocked out wide. That's turn 1 and loses 3 positions. The stewards will have to look at that.
For me, at that angle, it looks like Prio, to be fair, moved across too late. Vernet had already committed to the move, and then Prio moved across to defend. So
yep.
for me, at best, that's a racing incident. I don't really think Vernet did anything wrong there.
Well, right behind Andy Prio now is new boy Daniel Hagloff, and in front of him, Tiago Montero. Montero with a Honda in that Hell Racing livery that he and Attila Tashi share. So looking back from Jean-Carl Vernet, he's up to 3rd, but can he close the gap on Esteban Guerrieri, the leader, and Ted Björk in 2nd place? It was only half a second. If he does close on Björk, he'll feel fairly confident about being able to make a move on him as well, because he's in the same car that Andy Prio was. Okay, Ted Björk's been driving front-wheel drive for the last couple of years. Prio's last front-wheel drive race was in 2002, so every instinct that Andy's got is absolutely the wrong thing to do in a front-wheel drive car, because it's all about rear-wheel drive, which is what he's done for the last 15 years.
Yeah, though he has had a significant test mileage program over the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's perhaps not quite as sharp as some of his competitors at this end of the season.
Well, he's having to think about what's the right thing to do still. It's not an instinct. You know, all he's done is drive rear-wheel drive cars for the last 17 seasons, and they don't like doing what you do in a front-wheel drive car, and vice versa.
So confirmation that the incident between car 69 and 111, which of course is Vernet and Prio, is under investigation. That's no surprise. The stewards should have a look at it. But for me, from the one angle that we've seen it from, I would say that that's a racing incident. I think Vernet makes the move, commits to the corner before Prio decides to defend. So for me, I don't think there's any sanction or penalty required there.
And the stewards will have the assistance of our steward driver advisor, who is Marc Duez, hugely experienced rally driver, racing driver, and team boss. So he'll be able to hopefully give them an indication of what the driver is thinking and doing at that stage. So Vernet, I mean, it wasn't a cynical punt out of the way. He was on the inside looking to try and make up the place. We'll wait and see what they make of it. Guerrieri still the race leader. Ted Björk in 2nd place. There he is. Jean-Carl Vernet is now with Björk, Girolami, Tarquini and Prio, 4, 5, 6. Thiago Montero still 7th. And in 8th place, Daniel Hagloff. And then a big gap back from him, 2.5 seconds back to Jan Erlaché in 9th place and Norbert Michelisz in 10th. And Norby can't get by, and it seems that Erlaché is just the stopper in the bottle for the rest of the field. And this is the battle. There's Erlaché in the bright blue and yellow car, and then Norby under real pressure from a Spanish rookie, Mikel Azcona. And that's the 2nd of the PWR Racing Cupras.
I think Erlaché's got past Hagloff, actually.
Is that the other way around? Could be. So incident between 25 and 50 will be investigated after the race.
Bernani and Coronel.
Yeah. So that ended up with neither of them finishing lap 2. Johan Kristoffersson went back out of the pits but has come back in again, so whatever ailed his car clearly still ails it.
Michelisz also passed Hagloff now as well. Is that right, or is that Azcona?
Yeah, no, that's more. That's.
Sorry, that's Azcona. Sorry.
Yeah, that's Azcona. So Michelisz still chasing Erlaché, and Azcona ahead of Katzberg. So no change in the top half dozen. Guerrieri ahead of Björk and Vernet, and then Girolami in 4th, Tarquini in 5th, and Prio in 6th position. And now's the time for calm heads. You see Verne pulling out of the slipstream there, not to see where he's going, but to make sure the radiators, the coolers for the engine, for the transmission, are getting as much cooling air as they can. It's not a hot day by anybody's standards, but these cars are on the limit. There's Kevin Chekon battling with 88s. That's Nicky Katzberg. Right behind is Aurelien Panis, the yellow car, number 21. And so this is the battle. Well, Katzberg was 12th, no longer. Chekon's got by him. So Katzberg now 13th and Aurelien Panis 14th. So we caught the end of that as the Alpha moved up a spot.
Yeah, just going back to Verne, who's pulling out of the slipstream. We know that the Volkswagen Audi cars of the Cupra, the Volkswagen and the Audi, they're all on the edge as far as cooling goes. So he's been tucked up behind a car literally since the race started for 9 laps. So he's probably just starting to get temperatures creep up a little bit, and he needs to be getting into some cool air.
That was a lap of mixed fortunes for Giulietta drivers. Kevin Chekon gets a space, and Chinquan Ma pulls into the pit lane. So Ma is in the pits, and Kevin Chekon up to 13th. Points go down to 15th position, which pays 1 point. That's where Rob Huff finds himself. And behind Jan Erleche is this long queue, Erleche, Mikulits, then Azcona, then Chekon ahead of, no, Katzberg ahead of Chekon, or Chekon, no, Chekon ahead of Katzberg now. So he's got ahead of 88 Katzberg. That we saw hadn't been reflected in the timing and scoring till they get to the line. So Chekon in 12th, Katzberg 13th. And then in the points is Aurelien Panis and Rob Huff. And just out, Frederick Vervisch in his Audi. Then Augusto Farfus, car number 8. Niels Langfeldt, another one of our rookies. He's in the grey Audi. You just saw it there. Car number 10. Well, Martin Qua struggling with braking issues. Christopherson had bent steering arm, which I think the team may have replaced. And he's just gone out to check that everything's back together okay, and then parks the car. Lap 10 of 18. We're into the second half of the first race of the season. And so far, Esteban Guerrieri keeping his nose in front, and Jan Erleche holding off the rest of the top 10. Ten laps almost in the books in the first race of the FIA WTCR here in Marrakesh, Morocco, and Aurelien Panis drops out of 14th position. The Frenchman with a right front puncher, Richard Coleman, I think. That's what we've seen from a number of cars, including his teammate Tom Coronel in free practice. And he is creeping back to the pits to join his teammate in retirement.
Yeah, disappointing as he was running in the points and has had a relatively strong weekend so far pace-wise. But yeah, suffering a puncture, which we've seen as a bit of a theme so far today. So wouldn't surprise me if we see somebody else fall victim to that in the remaining 7 laps. Yeah,
Coronel's car blew a tyre in first free practice. Gordon Shedden had stopped on the same lap, but it wasn't a puncture. He'd rolled the tyre off the rim. Hyundai on Hyundai going around the outside is 88. That's Nicky Katzberg. And does he get by? Now, did he get by? Is that Norby? Hard to tell. It was Norby, so Mikulits has dropped back. There was also damage on Azcona's Cupra. We saw him smoking. Azcona's up the inside of Mikulits. Barely an overlap there. That's a little less cut and dried. Azcona, though, with damage, ahead of Kevin Chekon. And then Nicky Katzberg, 88, got ahead of Norbert Mikulits, 5. Rob Huff stays in 14th. For me, that was too ambitious from Azcona, far too optimistic. Never really was that move on. And, yeah, it would not surprise me to see him pick up a penalty. So the young Spaniard makes his world debut here. Little bit of, quite a lot of damage actually on the front of the Cupra. That tyre's not long for this world, is it? I think whatever penalty they apply, he's going to have to hope it happens in this race. Okay, so we're on board. Yeah, Mikulits had already defended the line. He knew that an attack was likely. He moved the middle of the circuit. That was never on. Right, Azcona by that stage, unfortunately, committed to the inside, and so there was nowhere for him to go when Norby shut the door on him. But for me, Mikulits had already moved before Azcona started going to the left, so for me, that move was never on. Well, let's hear from our race leader, Esteban Guerrieri, 7/10 ahead of Ted Björk.
It came on and off. I don't know what's what. I don't know. Yellow lights and then off again.
7 laps to go next time. Keep going. 7 laps to go next time.
Well, right now, it actually doesn't matter what's going on with the car. Unless it blows up, you keep going because you do not give away points. You make somebody take them off you. Now, obviously, you don't want the engine to let go, but if it does, it does. And then you have to deal with that tomorrow. Daniel Hegeloff just coming through the pit lane from 8th place. So, unfortunately, the Swedish driver drops out of the top dozen. Ascona still trailing smoke behind at Jan Erlache. This is 9th and 10th. And that incident will be the 3rd to be investigated. Now, they will investigate that one with a bit of jeopardy because both cars are still... one car is still in the race. No, both cars are still in the race. Norbert Michels is still there. Although he is losing place, he's just been passed by Fredrik Vervish as well. And Rob Huff, I think. Unless that was Farfus behind. Let's hear from Thiago Monteiro. He currently lies 7th.
I have a lot of oil on the screen from the Lincoln Co car. Lots of oil on the screen.
Okay.
Copy.
So that's coming from Andy Prio's car, which is dropping back. 5-second penalty to, it's flashed off the screen,
Ascona.
to car 96 Ascona for causing a collision.
That's fair.
And that is Niels Langeveld, the Dutch driver, and the way that car bobbled as it came back on track, is that him with a puncture as well? He was in 16th place in his Audi. And if Andy Prio is losing oil, he's definitely losing a little bit of ground to Gabriele Tarquini. And he was saying before the race, he said, me and Gabriele, we're going to be together on the grid. You know there's all that history between us. There's an awful lot of history between him and Gabriele Tarquini. Oh! Right front looks like it had air in it. Looks like he just got offline. No.
Yeah, that's
broken right rear suspension.
That's from the contact.
Yeah. So that's why the car slid off sideways. The right rear wheel was steering it into the runoff area, and luckily for him there was a runoff area there. That's why it's there at turn 3. Leaders are back there. Guerrieri, with whatever his problem is, still holding a good couple of car lengths ahead of Ted Björk. Björk not in lunging distance, not this early in the season. Car 69 now being hit with a 5-second penalty, Jean-Carl Vernet. So the stewards did not agree that that was more of a pass.
For me, that's ridiculous to have the same penalty as Ascona. I mean, this circuit is so difficult to overtake. You know, it just means the drivers aren't going to bother trying. You know, it just isn't worth the risk. I think that's the wrong decision.
Hyundai going slowly, and that might be Augusto Farfus, who's just been on the radio to the team reporting smoke in the cockpit. So Farfus, I believe, is driving Hyundai i30 chassis number 50. They have been building these cars hard and fast this year, last year. And so we may lose Augusto Farfus from our first race. Well, the 5-second penalty will be added to the time at the end of the race. So Jean-Carl Vernet, currently in 3rd place, plus 5 seconds, will take him down a long way down the order, I'm afraid. Let's hear from the driver of car 8, Augusto Farfus.
I smell smoke in the cockpit. Can you see if there is anything on the car? We will check.
All right, well, the team will look at whatever they can monitor. The driver will check whatever he can monitor. Meanwhile, it remains the same as with Esteban Guerrieri. Keep pushing. You're in the points. Esteban Guerrieri leads 15 laps into our first race. And there's Niels Langeveld. Not an easy track on which to make your world debut. And the Dutchman also struggling with flu. He said he didn't sleep at all last night. That was way out close to the tyres there from Andy Prio as we ride with Thiago Monteiro. Prio, it would seem, having more and more trouble getting the big Lincoln Co. 03 slowed and stopped.
might be getting a bit of his own oil on his own tyres. Obviously, oil will be coming from the engine bay, and if it's ending up on Thiago's screen, it's almost certainly going to be all over the back of Prio's car, so maybe he's getting a little bit of oil and fluid on his tyres.
Esteban Guerrieri, the pole sitter, leads from Ted Bjerg, who started second on the grid. Jean-Carl Vernet is third, but with a 5-second penalty. So Nesta Girolami needs to do precisely nothing right now to finish on the podium, other than hold off Tarquini. Gabrielli not quite close enough. You can see lots of specks of oil on his screen as well. He lies in 5th place, but he will inherit 4th. Let's hear from our reigning champion.
You have 2 seconds to Vernet, so it's okay. Keep pushing like this.
Well, he has got 2 seconds to Vernet, but they neglect to tell him that Vernet doesn't exist as far as Gabriel is concerned. So actually, what's really important is the 9/10 he's behind Nesta Girolami.
No, I think that's what they were trying to explain to him, that he's just got to try and make sure he's got a close gap to Vernet.
Yeah, but what he wants to do is try and get to Girolami. Attila Tashi running out of brakes as he skates off down at turn 1. Looks like no major damage done. He's rejoined at the tail of the field. With Jean-Carl Vernet right in front of him, you can see the blue tail of Ted Bjerg. And Bjerg, like Vernet, moving out of the slipstream of the car in front just to make sure that there's no problems with cooling. Completing lap 16 of our 18-lap distance. So further back, where are the points coming? Well, Guerrieri, Bjerg and Girolami, as of now, will finish on the podium. There is Girolami in 4th place on the road, but Jean-Carl Vernet with a 5-second penalty. And then behind Girolami, Gabriele Tarquini, Andy Prio, Thiago Montero, they should all benefit as well. We're hearing on the radio through the truck that Augusto Farfus now reporting a lot of smoke, not just the smell of it. Presumably he can now see it inside the cockpit. And the team will be saying to him, if you can't see flames, 2 laps, 1 after this, keep going. He's in the points, 15th place, 1 point. As Andy Prio there always says, any point is important. If you're sitting applauding somebody else who's won the title 1 point ahead of you, and you remember back to the day that you pulled out of 15th with a lap to go, then you will not be a happy boy.
Montero smells a bit of blood, quite literally.
Yep.
He's got oil on the screen of the car in front.
Looking back at Kevin Chekon, that was a view from Mikel Ascona, and he has a 5-second penalty applied to him, so he'll drop behind Chekon and Katzberg and Mikelish and Huff and Vervish and Farfus. So even more reason. I don't think Gordon Shedden will get in the points from 16th. I think Farfus might move up a spot, so that's a Brucey bonus in terms of points for him. Well, not a bad debut so far for the cars from Cyan Racing. Ted Bjerg lies 2nd, Andy Prio in 6th position, Jan Erlache in 8th, and Ivan Muller up to 18th place. He's got ahead of Attila Tashi and Tanja Haglöf. And we've had 6 retirements so far. Final lap then for Esteban Guerrieri. Clears one of the major hurdles at turn 4. He's done everything he needed to do, hasn't he? Hasn't tried to overdrive, hasn't tried to overwork the tyres. Made sure that he just stays tantalisingly away from Ted Bjerg in 2nd. And that's all he really needed to do. And Richard, another factor here is that it's the first race, apart from the Nordschleife, on this new tyre. And after testing, the drivers felt that the performance window of the tyre had got smaller because it's a different compound to the one that they were using last year. So even more important to drive to what the tyre can give you rather than what the car could actually produce. You've got to balance all of the factors.
Yeah, softer tyre, higher degradation, but this is a very low tyre wear circuit, so I think that'll come later on in the season. But yeah, no, very good drive from Esteban. It was all one at the start, really. Kept his cool into turn 1 when you know, he didn't make the best of starts. So no, very good drive from him. And you do feel like a lot of the drivers weren't taking too much risk, not wishing to compromise tomorrow's proceedings. But Yeah, the one thing I'm sort of slightly surprised by is the penalty for Venet, because for me, you know, this is a very difficult circuit to overtake anyway, and all that does is mean the drivers are even less likely to give it a go. And as far as I'm concerned, Prio moved after Venet had already committed. So for me, that wasn't a penalty, but stewards see it differently.
Yep, and in the end, we don't make the rules, they do, or they at least enforce them. So Esteban Guerrieri, well, he claimed the first pole of the year for Honda. Honda had not had a pole position last year, and the winner of the last race last year wins the first.
Check it live, P1. Try and get some pickup on the tyres as you can, and be careful to do what the FIA say when you come in.
Well, that was his race engineer, Dave Scott. A familiar voice and calm head of Scotty. So, the winner of the last race last year and the winner of the first race this year, Esteban Guerrieri for Munich Motorsport and Honda. And some very happy family heading towards Victory Circle. So Guerrieri in first place, Nesta Girolami in third place. With the penalties applied, Vernet finishes in 7th and Ascona in 16th. So Gordon Shedden does get into the points by 3600ths of a second. So I'm afraid that my addition of 0.somethings of a second didn't quite come out. And Gordon Shedden, whether he pushed extra hard on the final lap, I'm not sure who had worked that out, but Shedden does get a point for 15th place, and Ascona on his debut, unfortunately, is out of luck. His teammate Daniel Hagloff, who looked like he might be firmly in the top 10, maybe even 8th or 7th position. Not sure what took him through the pit lane, but he ended up in 20th place in the last running car. So first win of the season, Esteban Guerrieri extends his championship lead. He won the claimed pole position, took 5 points in qualifying today, and then claims the first win of the season now. Who did that here last year? Oh yeah, that was, well, Gabriele Tarquini didn't get the points, all the points for pole, but he got the first win of the year. And look what happened to him, and there's two very happy Argentines. Two Argentine drivers on the podium, first day of racing of the year. Not sure they'll be feeling much pain this evening, will they? They'll be sleeping well.
And again, Gabriele Tarquini, a driver that, you know, perhaps Hyundai aren't exactly competitive this weekend in terms of BOP, but, you know, there he is, 4th place, picking up the points, wily old fox. You know, it's also, this championship's as much about making the best of difficult weekends, which you wouldn't say Hyundai have looked too strong here, but he's got the points for 4th, you know.
And Tebjerg, 2nd place, after qualifying in 3rd, then being promoted to 2nd when Ivan Muller had to be sent to the back of the grid after changing the engine on his car. So that's an important first race for him, for Cyan Racing and for Lynk & Co. on their debut with a brand new car that you've probably never even seen as a road car, and never will in Europe, as I understand it. This particular model not coming to Europe. So the Lynk & Co car claiming 2nd place, the 2017 World Touring Car Champion. Race 1 done and dusted, and 2 Barcelona-domiciled Argentines on the podium. There's Nesta Girolami, like his teammate Esteban Guerrieri. He spends his season living in Barcelona in Spain, just to be a little closer here than he would be were he back home in Argentina. And he finishes a strong 3rd. That's a big race for Munich Motorsport, allinkle.com, 1st and 3rd. And Alex Legui is with our winner.
Our first race of the weekend, and it's won by one of the 2 Argentines, Esteban Guerrieri. Congratulations, race 1 winner. You had it at the start. You've managed to keep Ted off, and that was it all the way through.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the team, to Honda, to Allinkle. It's a nice family. And to Nestor, he came and he did a great job. Here he is. Great job.
Congratulations, mate.
Bravo,
you deserve.
Bravo.
Very well done.
And yeah, it was a nice race. I could control the pace. Ted did a good start, I would say. side by side into the first corner. Just was quite gentleman, let me the space, and just managed to go behind me. Since then, controlling the speed, the car was great, not a problem. So, well, actually, I got some yellow lights in one moment, like alarm. I was a bit worried, but after that, it was good. So, yeah, I'm really happy. Yeah, it's great feeling to start like this season. So I want to say some words in Spanish. Hermano, los amo. Con paciencia, con amor y con alegría. Gracias por acompañarnos a todos.
Excellent start to the season, Esteban. Well done.
Esteban Guerrieri, our championship leader after the first race of the year. Oh, I'm not going to put money on a horse that this early in the game, but the man who won the first race of the season last year ended up being champion. And the last time an Argentine qualified on pole on day one of the season, in fact, the last 3 times an Argentine qualified on pole and won race 1 on the first day of the season, he also ended up being champion. But history, schmistery, as Henry Ford once said. Esteban Guerrieri, Ted Björk and Nesta Girolami are our podium finishers ahead of Gabriele Tarquini, Andy Prio and Tiago Montero. And the final point goes to Gordon Shedden for Leopard Racing Team Audi Sport, as Miguel Ascona and also J.K. Verne ended up with penalties. And 20 cars running at the end, so the final page is of those who finished their day in the pit lane with damage in retirement. It is 30 points under his belt for Esteban Guerrieri. He leads by 7 from Ted Björk. Nesta Girolami lies third, ahead of Gabriele Tarquini, the defending TCR Cup champion, and returning triple world champion Andy Prio lies 5th ahead of the returning Tiago Montero. Lots of returnings, half a dozen rookies, a brand new mark in the championship in Lincoln Co. And an entertaining first race in terms of what it might or probably won't tell us for the season. Race 1, the 2019 FIA WTCR World Cup in Marrakesh, Morocco. Esteban Guerrieri starting from pole position, but not as quickly as maybe he wanted to. Ted Björk in the brand new Lincoln Co around the outside, as Nesta Girolami held on to the inside line on row 2 from Andy Prio. Guerrieri got his nose in front of Ted Björk down into turn 3. Girolami outbraked himself inside Prio down to turn 3. And the triple world champion moved up a spot, bumping and boring all the way through the pack, with the defending World Cup title winner from last year, Gabriele Tarquini, firmly in the mix of the action. First off, Tom Coronel. Contact between he and Mehdi Banani would put them both into retirement. And Andy Prio holding on from Tiago Montero after he had been passed, dropping down from 3rd place. Norbert Mikulitz, victim of a little bit of a late lunge from Spanish rookie Mikel Ascona. He lost 2 or 3 places. Ascona hit with a 5-second penalty, as was Jean-Carl Verne, who was running 3rd on the road after diving inside Prio, making contact and costing the Guernseyman 3 places. At the checkered flag, the first win of the season went to Esteban Guerrieri, with Ted Björk in 2nd and Nesta Girolami 3rd, making it a good day for Honda and for Munich Motorsport. And not a bad day for Argentina either. So confirmation of the championship standings there, the top 10. Esteban Guerrieri with the points lead on day 1. There are an awful lot of races and a vast number of points still to be won, starting again tomorrow with qualifying and then race 2 and race 3 here in Marrakesh. Qualifying 11 o'clock local time, 10 a.m. GMT. So you can follow that live. We'll be on air 5 minutes beforehand. And there we go, Q1, Q2, Q3. And then into the races, which start at 4:30 local time, which is 15:30 GMT. William de Braquelaire of Honda Motorsport. looking very happy there with a Honda 1.3. There's Thiago Monteiro. So 3 Hondas in the top half dozen, 2 Lincoln Co's and 1 Hyundai. And just outside the top 6, Jean-Carl Vernet, who was 3rd on the road in the Audi. So the Audi's definitely got plenty of pace. So's the Lincoln Co. So too have Honda and Hyundai, who had the best of the points with Gabriele Tarquini last year. Kevin Chekon, 9th place from him in the Alfa Romeo, and the best of the Volkswagens in 12th position.
Please welcome onto the podium in third position from all-inclusive Munich Motorsport is Nestor Girolami.
So Nestor Girolami in 3rd place.
Your second position driver from Cyan Racing Lincoln Co. It's Ted Bjerg. And your winning driver from allinkle.com Munich Motorsport is Esteban Guerrieri. And representing the winning team is Dominic Greiner from allinkle.com Munich Motorsport. And now the national anthem for both Esteban Guerrieri and allinkle.com Munich Motorsport. Saeed El Baghdadi, the general manager of Africa, will present the 3rd position trophy to allinkle.com Munich Motorsport's Nestor Girolami. Hidenori Ito, Brand Strategy Department, will present our 2nd position trophy to Cyan Racing Lincoln Co.'s Ted Bjerg. Pierre Noel Luigi, founder of Oscaro, will present the winning drivers trophy to allinkle.com Munich Motorsport's Esteban Guerrieri. Sylvain Levy, Team Oscaro Experience, will present the winning team trophy to Dominic Greiner of allinkle.com Munich Motorsport. Please come together for your official photograph.
Come with me? Yeah, I want it. To be in, of course.
Good work, Dominic. Congratulations. Good work.
Good job, man.
Yep.
One more on the podium. Come together one more time, gents, for your official photograph.
It's too heavy.
And now, let's party!
And that is it for day one of the FIA WTCR World Touring Car Cup. Races 2 and 3 Sunday afternoon here in Marrakesh in Morocco. We'll see you then. Bye for now. Confirmation then of our teams' standings. First and third sees All Inkle Motorsport at the top of the pile ahead of both Cyan Racing teams. BRC's N Squadra Corsa Hyundai team ahead of KCMG. Those points courtesy of Thiago Montero finishing in 6th position. And that is it for the first day of action. One down, 23 more races still to come. So that's it. Race 1 is done. Join Richard Coleman, Alex Legui, me, Martin Haven, and the rest of the WTCR TV crew here trackside in Marrakesh, Morocco tomorrow. Qualifying gets underway at 11. We'll be on air 5 minutes before that, and the race is at 4:30.
Super Crew.